Hello, and welcome to the St. Mary's River Web Map User Tutorial. In this video, I will review how to use this online mapping application and what data is available. This online mapping application was created by two University of Georgia students, Grace Ann Ingham and Raquel Oliva, for the University of Georgia Geography Department and St. Mary's River Management Committee. The overall goal of this map is to promote improved water quality in the St. Mary's River and its tributaries. It is intended for use by students in the University of Georgia Environmental Law Practicum course, as well as by counties, municipalities, and their citizens. The map brings together into one place data useful for community planning within the four-county watershed basin, such as land use, locations of septic tanks, soil runoff potential, and wetlands. It can also be used to determine water sampling sites for the Adopt a Stream program and for planning paddling excursions on the St. Mary's River. First, we will review how to find and use the map and the data it makes available. The map can be accessed on the St. Mary's River Management Committee website under the Services tab. When you first open the map, a splash screen appears that provides a link to the ArcGIS Online St. Mary's River Watershed website, where you can find additional background information on data sources and even download some datasets. There is also a screen size warning for folks accessing the map from phones, tablets, or non-standard computer screen sizes. If layers are not rendering properly, zooming in a few times should resolve any screen size issues. When you close the splash screen, you are able to interact with the map. In the upper left, you will find your navigational tools. There are buttons for zoom in and zoom out, and for returning to the home extent that shows Camden, Charlton, Baker, and Nassau counties. Under the map title from left to right, you have Legend, Layers, Base Map, Measure, Share, Print, and Bookmark tools. The Legend button will open the map legend, which will display information about all the layers that are currently turned on. The Layers button is where you select which data you would like to display on the map. You add and remove data from the map by clicking the checkbox to the left of the layer name. By default, the map opens with the four county boundaries and the Huck 8 watershed layers turned on. As you turn on additional layers, sometimes the map can get crowded. When you click on the arrow to the right of a layer, you can adjust the opacity of the layer. Decreasing the opacity will make your layer more transparent so that it is easier to see multiple layers at once. The Base Map button allows you to change the background over which the map layers are overlaid. For example, you may want to change to satellite imagery in order to see the locations of building types or the vegetation. The Measure button allows users to measure areas, distances of lines, and location. For example, if you wanted to plan a paddling trip between two boat launches on the St. Mary's River and wanted to measure the approximate distance you would be traveling, click on the map to begin your line. And double-click when you have reached the end of the thing you want to measure. My estimated route was 19.8 miles of river. Finally, the Print button will allow you to print out an image or PDF copy of the map. You can add a title and a legend. and it will print out whatever map extent and data layers are currently displayed on your screen. Now that we all have a better understanding of how to use the map, let's look at what data is available. Remember that any additional information on any of the layers from this map can be found at the St. Mary's River Watershed website, linked in the map splash screen. First, we have the 4 counties in the St. Mary's River watershed: Baker and Nassau in Florida, and Camden and Charlton in Georgia. The second layer shows all wastewater treatment facilities with NPDES permits within these 4 counties. If you click on any of the points, a pop-up will appear with additional information about the site. Next are the known river access points along the St. Mary's River, useful for planning paddling excursions. The next few layers are related to septic tanks within the St. Mary's watershed. First, there is a 100-foot buffer around the river. We recommend that when looking at this layer, you deselect the county's layer in the legend, because the county borders meet at the river, and it can make it difficult to see the buffer clearly. Then there's a layer showing the permitted septic tanks that fall within the 100-foot buffer around the St. Mary's River. This layer also contains one septic tank that lies within 100 feet of Horsepen Creek, a tributary of the St. Mary's River. We checked for septic tanks within 100 feet of 3 tributaries of the St. Mary's that are impaired by fecal coliform: Spanish Creek, Horsepen Creek, and Little St. Mary's. Only Horsepen Creek had a septic tank within the buffer zone. There was also a layer showing all permitted septic tanks within the 4 counties. Remember that all of this data is interactive. If you want more information about any of the septic tank locations, you can simply click on the point and see additional information. The HUC layers, of which HUC 8 is shown by default, are watersheds designated by the USGS based on their superficial hydrologic features. We have both HUC 12 and HUC 8 watersheds. The HUC 8 layer represents a broader watershed delineation, including the St. Mary's River Basin, the yellow polygon. Once you click on one of these polygons, the pop-up will show the name of the watershed as well as their individual HUC codes, which can be used as a search parameter in various national databases. You will notice that the next 6 layers on our map appear grayed out. This is because these layers will only appear when the app is zoomed in. These layers show the boundaries of tax parcels, and if they are rendered when the map is zoomed out, they create a large black blob that makes it impossible to read the map. So once we zoom in, we see that they appear. The first 3 parcel layers show only certain parcels. The first one shows parcels that are completely contained by the 100-foot buffer zone around the St. Mary's River. These parcels display in red. Since these parcels are within that 100-foot buffer, they should not be permitted to install a septic tank. The next two layers show in yellow parcels that lie partially within the 100-foot St. Mary's buffer and the 100-foot buffer around the 3 tributaries impacted by fecal coliform. The 3 remaining parcel layers show the outlines of all land parcels in Camden, Charlton, and Baker and Nassau counties. These outlines are shown in black. Next, we have 2 layers of water quality sampling data. The first, water quality stations, shows water quality data within the St. Mary's Basin compiled by numerous organizations, including the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, St. Johns River Water Management District, and the Georgia Environmental Protection Division in tandem with the EPA. Each sample location is represented by a blue or yellow dot. The blue dots represent sites in Georgia, while yellow dots represent sites in Florida. Each pop-up will display the database from which the sample's data is stored, the organization responsible, and a link to data query to help users access raw data of the site. The next layer shows the water quality data collected through Georgia's Adopt a Stream program, where local citizens monitor and collect data from local streams and rivers for the online database. The sample collection sites are represented by green dots. Each pop-up stores the sample's name and a link to the Adopt a Stream site for more information. The impaired waters layer are stream segments and watersheds identified as polluted or impaired by the EPA. Georgia classifies their impaired features through river segments, whereas Florida identifies their impairments by watershed. Each dataset comes with a pop-up that will give the user information on what type of impairment was identified, as well as a link to the EPA and relevant information specifically for that impairment. Our next layer is hydrologic soils. Hydrologic soil groups are distinguished by their runoff potentials. These are assigned based on the soil's runoff potential when they're not protected by vegetation, thoroughly wet, or receive precipitation from long-duration storms. Then we have the depth to water table. This layer represents the variations of the depth to water table. This refers to the saturated zone of the soil, which occurs during specific months. The gradient is on the right. Calculated in feet. The pop-ups will indicate the depth of any region within the map. The wetlands layer comes from the National Wetland Inventory. Each color represents a different category of wetland, riparian, or deep water habitat. Land use land cover. Data comes from the 2016 NLCD dataset provided by the USGS. The classifications are based on a 16-class legend from a modified Anderson Level 2 classification system, which also include various levels of developed space. The next layer shows surface water withdrawals. Only 2 sites have surface water withdrawals that pump water from natural surficial resources. This data has pop-ups where the user can access a link to all the relevant documents related to that site. The next 3 layers show the zoning designations for all land in Baker, Nassau, Camden, and Charlton counties. In Charlton County, these are referred to as character areas. The final 3 layers show flood risk information from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The layer FEMA Hazard Zones shows detailed flood risk designations, while the 100-year flood and 500-year flood layers are aggregations that show all areas within a 1% annual risk or 0.2% annual risk of flood, respectively. Now that you are familiar with all of the data available in this map, you are ready to use it for yourself. We have just one final note before we conclude this tutorial. When you are exploring the data and have multiple layers turned on in your map, you may be confused by the pop-up box that you see when you click on your data. For example, here I have both the wetlands and land use land cover layers turned on. When I click on this area, it shows me the information from the land use land cover layer. But say that I want to know the wetlands information. Simply click on the small arrow in the upper right of your pop-up box. This arrow allows you to toggle between the pop-up boxes for the various layers that you turned on. Here, when I click the arrow, the information for the wetlands layer appeared. And with that last piece of advice, we have concluded our map tutorial. Thank you for sticking with me as we moved through the map, and I hope that you are as excited about the future of this app as I am. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Raquel with any questions or comments you might have. Cheers!